HOA Karen told me to leave my own pool, so I drained it in front of her guests. Part 1. Wait, why are you telling me to leave? It was supposed to be the perfect Saturday afternoon, floaty under one arm, a glass of ice-cold lemonade in the other, and nothing on my agenda but a long, peaceful soak in my pool. I stepped out the back door, sunglasses on, towel over my shoulder, and that's when I heard it. That voice. "Excuse me, the pool is closed for an HOA event. You'll need to leave." Excuse me? There, standing by my own pool, was a woman I had never seen before. Wide-brimmed sun hat, oversized sunglasses, clipboard in hand like she was managing a red carpet premiere. Behind her, dozens of guests in Hawaiian shirts, sipping punch and taking selfies in front of a banner that read, "Welcome to Cheryl's Summer Splash Bash." I blinked. Twice. Was I hallucinating? Dreaming? Had I stepped into some HOA dimension where common sense didn't exist? Nope. This was my backyard, my property, my pool, and some stranger named Cheryl was telling me to leave it. I tried to keep calm, even let out a little chuckle. "You must be new around here," I said, walking forward. "This is my house." She frowned like I'd just insulted her Tupperware collection. "That's irrelevant," she said smugly. "The HOA reserved the space this afternoon. I'm Cheryl. I organized the event. You weren't on the RSVP list, and your presence is making the guests uncomfortable." I looked around. Unfamiliar faces whispered behind plastic cups. My own patio furniture had been rearranged like it belonged in a showroom. And this woman, this Cheryl, had the audacity to dismiss me from my own backyard? I stared in disbelief, my lemonade sweating in my hand. Was this really happening? She waved her pen like a gavel. "You can come back after 6. And with that, she turned her back toward the bar that had been set up by my grill, next to the floaty I bought from Target last week. I opened my mouth, closed it, opened it again, and finally said, as politely as I could, "Ma'am, this pool is on private property. Mine. You're all trespassing." She rolled her eyes, so hard I could practically hear the sarcasm squeak. "No, sweetie," she replied in the most condescending tone I've ever heard. "You see? This neighborhood falls under HOA Code 47B, which allows community access to shared amenities like this pool." I pointed behind her. "That's my shed, my barbecue. And that flamingo float you're leaning on still has the receipt in my trash." Cheryl flipped a laminated page on her clipboard like she was quoting scripture. "That's up for discussion," she sniffed. "The spirit of the HOA is inclusion. If we start drawing lines around who owns what, where does it end?" I stared at her, wondering what kind of fantasy land she was living in. Because in this world, she had just picked the wrong guy to mess with. Part 2. You're not on the RSVP list for your own house. I stood there, still in my flip-flops, watching strangers sip sangria on my patio furniture. Patio furniture I had bought, arranged now like it was part of some HOA showroom. One guy in a fedora was flipping burgers on my grill. A kid chased a beach ball into the flower bed I'd planted last spring. And Cheryl? She strutted over, clicking her pen like a judge about to drop the gavel. "You can come back after 6, she repeated without even looking at me. "Let's not ruin the vibe." Ruin the vibe? This was surreal. I stormed back into the house, nearly tripping over my cat, grabbed the deed folder from the kitchen drawer, and marched right back out. I held it up, highlighted parcel lines and all, and said, "Read it. This is a private residence. Your HOA party is illegally taking place on private land." Cheryl didn't even flinch. "That's a matter for the HOA board," she said with a smug shrug. "We're not going to ruin this event over a little misunderstanding. You're welcome to send an email, just not during party hours." Party hours? Party. Hours. I was seconds away from rebranding this whole event into a courtroom drama called Cheryl versus Reality. She snapped her fingers at the DJ like she was commanding an army. The yacht rock cranked up so loud, it hurt my soul. I stood there, dumbfounded, as a guest bumped into me. "Great party," he said, raising his red cup. "How do you know Cheryl?" I looked him dead in the eyes. "I own the pool." He froze mid-sip. "Wait, this isn't the HOA clubhouse?" I didn't even respond. Moments later, two guys in black polos approached me. Not cops. Private security. "Hey, man," one of them said, scratching his head. We were told this was HOA property. And you're not supposed to be here. Mind stepping aside to chat?" I blinked. "Do I look like I need an escort out of my own backyard?" They shifted uncomfortably. "Look, we're just doing what Cheryl said. She hired us for the event." I let out a short laugh, the kind that bubbles just before someone flips a table. "You're going to feel real stupid in about 5 minutes. I led them down the side path, right to the gate where Cheryl had posted a ridiculous laminated sign. "Private event, HOA members only," zip-tied to my fence. I ripped it down and tossed it straight into the trash. "You guys are now officially accomplices to trespassing," I said. "Congratulations." One of the guards scratched his neck. Maybe we should talk to someone from the actual board?" I pulled out my phone, texted Brian, the real HOA president, the one who actually had a spine. He responded in seconds. "Absolutely not an approved event. Cheryl has no planning authority. Document everything." Oh, I was documenting all right. I took photos of the banner, the decorations, the sign, the shrimp skewers, even Cheryl barking at the caterer like she was directing a Broadway show. I turned back to the security guys and said, "Looks like Cheryl lied to you. You can either walk away now or end up in the report." That was all it took. They stepped aside, awkward nods and all, and I walked back toward the pool. Slower this time, burning with silent rage. I passed Cheryl on the way. She looked me up and down like I was a rogue wedding crasher. I gave her a slow, sarcastic salute. "You'll want to remember this moment," I said, "because this is the last party you ever throw in this yard." She scoffed. "Please. What are you going to do, drain the pool?" I stopped, turned, and smiled. And that's when the plan clicked into place. She had no idea what she'd just unlocked. Part 3. The pettiest valve twist in HOA history. I walked back into the house, but not to cool off. Nope. I had a plan. A slow, delicious, perfectly petty plan. While Cheryl raised her plastic champagne flute to toast neighborhood unity, I slipped around the side of the house to the pool shed. It was small, nothing fancy, but inside, all the tools I'd need to reclaim my kingdom. Maintenance gear, chemicals, old labels and patch kits, and one very important item, a long metal valve wrench. It was connected to the pool's drainage system, tucked quietly under the deck. I knelt down, fingers shaking slightly, and twisted the valve a quarter turn. Just enough. Not enough to cause chaos, but enough to start the flow. Quietly, steadily, unstoppably. The water began to leave. I stepped back, locked the shed, and walked around front like nothing had happened. Back at the party, things were still rolling. Guests were laughing. Kids were splashing. Someone spilled salsa on my outdoor rug and said, "Oops," like it was a minor parking ticket. And Cheryl She was holding court like a dictator on vacation. I leaned against the railing near my grill, sipping lemonade and pretending to scroll my phone. But I wasn't watching TikToks. I was watching the waterline, waiting for someone to notice, and soon they did. A man in board shorts floated up from the shallow end and shouted, "Hey, is it just me, or is this side getting shallow?" A woman responded, "No, yeah, my floaty's like hitting bottom." I stifled a smile. Cheryl, of course, tried to brush it off. "Oh, the filter cycle's weird sometimes. You know how pools are." I sipped my drink and whispered, "No, Cheryl, you don't." The murmurs started. Kids sat awkwardly in puddles where there used to be water. A dad tried to cannonball and ended up flopping into 3 inches of wet tile. And me? I just waited. The pool wasn't draining fast. That would be too obvious. This was art. Let them sip their punch, post their selfies, make memories, while the foundation of their little fantasy literally disappeared beneath them. One guy slipped trying to step out and knocked over a flamingo centerpiece. Shrimp cocktail hit the grass. People gasped. The vibe destroyed. I stepped forward, slowly, calmly, and stood beside Cheryl as her perfect illusion cracked. She hissed, "What did you do?" I took a long sip of lemonade, then said softly, "I'm just watching the community enjoy itself. Isn't that the spirit of the HOA?" Her jaw locked so tight I thought she'd bite through her clipboard. More guests started whispering now. "This doesn't feel safe. Why's the pool so low? Did Cheryl even get permission for this?" That was my cue. I raised my voice, not yelling, just loud enough to carry, "Just so everyone's clear. This isn't an HOA event. This is my house, my yard, my pool." Cheryl lied to all of you. There was no approval, no RSVP list, no jurisdiction. The crowd fell quiet. All you could hear was the faint glug, glug, glug of water still disappearing beneath the surface. And Cheryl? She stood in stunned silence, like someone had just unplugged her from the Matrix. It was happening. Her empire, her fantasy, her fake authority was unraveling 1 inch of pool water at a time. And I wasn't done yet. Not even close. Part 4. The pool party melts down. Literally. The moment the truth left my lips, the energy shifted. You could feel it. No more casual laughter. No more lighthearted mingling. No more cheers for Cheryl, the heart of the HOA. Now, just side eyes, murmurs, and quiet panic. One woman actually dropped her drink into the pool and gasped like she'd just tossed in a diamond ring. Another man muttered, "Wait, this isn't HOA property. Are we, trespassing?" Cheryl scrambled to save face. She climbed up onto a patio chair, like a substitute teacher trying to restore order. "Everyone, please, don't let him ruin this. This is about building community." Her voice cracked halfway through the sentence. Nobody clapped. Someone near the back whispered, "Is that why the pool's half empty?" Cheryl's eye twitched. Just a little. It was subtle, but glorious. I stayed by the grill, watching it unfold like the climax of a Shakespearean HOA tragedy. The DJ? He unplugged his gear mid-song. The caterers started packing up. One muttered, "I'm sending this invoice directly to the board." A child started crying, not because they were hurt, but because their unicorn floaty had officially bottomed out on tile. I leaned in and said to Cheryl just low enough, "You told me to leave my own pool," then pointed toward the waterline. "So I let the pool leave instead." That broke her. She whirled on me. "You have no idea what you've done." I tilted my head, smirking. "Oh, I think I do." And just then, perfect timing, Brian arrived. My actual HOA president. The one with a brain and a backbone. He stepped out of his car with a tired expression and a police officer right behind him. Not a big one, not a dramatic entrance, just calm authority, in khaki pants and aviators. The officer looked around at the soggy decorations, the drained pool, the awkward crowd, and asked, "Is this a private or public event?" Brian didn't hesitate. "Private. Very private. Completely unapproved." I didn't say a word, just stood there, hands in my pockets, watching Cheryl unravel like a deflating balloon animal. The officer turned to her. "Ma'am, the homeowner has full legal authority to remove anyone from the property. If you remain, this becomes trespassing." Cheryl looked like she wanted to argue, so badly. But no words came out. Her clipboard trembled in her hands. She turned. And that's when it happened. One of her guests, who had been standing silently near the pool, spoke up. "You said this was your pool." Cheryl froze. Every pair of eyes turned to her. The illusion? Gone. The respect? Gone. Her fantasy HOA career? Also gone. With slumped shoulders and mascara streaking down her face, she stepped off the patio and walked away. No speech, no insult, no warning. Just the click, click, click of her heels on the wet pavement. Fading into nothing. And me? I took one last sip of lemonade, walked to the edge of my nearly empty pool, and smiled. She told me to leave. So I made everyone leave, and I did it without yelling, without threats, without calling a single cop, just one twist of a valve, and a whole lot of unforgiving calm. Part 5, the day after, Karen fallout and neighborhood fame. The next morning was unnaturally peaceful. No HOA flyers under my door, no clipboards pacing outside my fence, no music, no shouting, no one reclaiming my backyard, just birds, breeze, and silence. I stepped out with a cup of coffee, still a little stunned by the surreal chaos from the day before. The pool? Still mostly drained. The only thing floating was a deflated flamingo and a single plastic cup labeled Cheryl's Bash. I let out a long, satisfied sigh. This wasn't just a quiet morning, was victory. And then, right on cue, my phone buzzed. It was Brian. His message? "HOA called an emergency meeting. Cheryl's done. Board is furious. More coming." I couldn't help it. I grinned so hard I nearly spilled my coffee. Apparently, word had spread fast. The DJ was posting on Facebook about how he escaped a suburban cult. The caterers were demanding payment from the HOA, and someone had uploaded video footage of Cheryl arguing beside the draining pool, set to dramatic classical music, with the title, "Karen's Summer Splashdown, HOA Meltdown of the Year." Within hours, it was everywhere. Community Facebook pages, group chats, even the Nextdoor app, which normally just argued about raccoons and garbage day, was on fire. And the comments? Oh, they were chef's kiss. She once told me I couldn't hang wind chimes because they disturbed the HOA harmony. She called my 12-year-old too aggressive for running in flip-flops. And now she threw a party in someone else's backyard? Let that sink in. Pun intended. By noon, I was basically a local legend. People slowed down while walking past my house, nodding, waving, even clapping quietly. One guy, whom I'd never even talked to before, stopped by with a bottle of lemonade and said, "For the man who drained the queen." I nearly lost it. Apparently, while Cheryl had spent years ruling through fear and fake rules, I had become the symbol of rebellion, all because I stood my ground and turned a trespassing tantrum into a full-blown HOA spectacle. And that afternoon, the HOA board made it official. Brian texted me again. "She's suspended from all events, can't organize, can't plan, Can't act on behalf of the HOA anymore. She's done. I didn't need revenge. This was better. Public humiliation, HOA exile, and her influence? Gone. But just when I thought it was over, I looked up and saw a familiar silver SUV crawling past my fence. Cheryl. No sunglasses this time, no clipboard, no smirk, just her pale face, staring ahead, not even glancing at my house. She didn't stop, she didn't wave, she just drove, like a ghost, pretending it didn't haunt anything. And me? I watched her go and whispered to myself, next time, bring a towel. Because if she ever came back, she wasn't just dealing with a pool owner anymore. She was dealing with the guy the neighborhood now called the Drain King. Part 6. Cheryl's Last Stand, and the Sign That Broke Her. That evening, as the last bit of pool water shimmered in the drain, I had an idea. Not revenge, not escalation, just art. So I dug out something I had made months ago, but never used. A wooden sign, big, bold, beautiful, painted in black letters, private pool, not HOA property, trespassers will be drained. Underneath it, a hand-drawn cartoon of a floaty mid-deflate with little pfft lines coming out the side. I nailed it to the side of the pool shed facing the gate. It was part warning, part inside joke. And for everyone who'd witnessed Cheryl's meltdown, it was a perfect punchline. Not even an hour later. Brian stopped by. He looked exhausted, like he'd just fought a war armed with nothing but sarcasm and HOA paperwork. He handed me a thick envelope and said, "Fresh from the board. Officially declaring your property off-limits to all HOA events, rules, and dues. You're free." I opened it. Glossy print, neighborhood map, and in bright red outline, my house, my yard, my pool. Labeled clearly, non-HOA property. No HOA authority applies. It was beautiful. It was justice. It was laminated. We clinked soda cans on my patio like war generals who just won a very stupid but deeply satisfying battle. Brian told me Cheryl had actually shown up at the board meeting with a color-coded map and tried to argue, get this, that historical community use meant she still had rights to the pool. Apparently, they laughed her out of the room. I mean, she brought a map, color-coded, of someone else's backyard. You can't make this stuff up. But as we stood near the pool, now sparkling clean, Brian said something that stuck with me. I've seen petty HOA arguments before, but this was next level. I nodded. Yeah, and it's finally over. But it wasn't. Not quite. Because at 9 p.m., just as the string lights twinkled on, my phone dinged again. A neighbor, one I barely knew, had messaged me a screenshot. It was from the Nextdoor app. There it was, a long, rambling post from Cheryl. She claimed she'd been bullied, that I was hostile to community spirit, and that she was considering, wait for it, suing the HOA for defamation. I nearly dropped my phone from laughing. But the best part? The comments. One person replied, "She once told me to remove my lawn gnome because it mocked the aesthetic integrity of the neighborhood." Another added, "She screamed at my 8-year-old for riding a scooter too loudly." And then someone posted the viral video, the one of Cheryl yelling beside the draining pool, edited with dramatic music and slow-mo, captioned, "HOA Karen drowned by entitlement." By midnight, that video had over 40,000 views. No spin left to salvage, no sympathy to lean on, no clipboard strong enough to hold back a digital tidal wave. And Cheryl? She vanished. No more SUV drive-bys, no more flyers, no more HOA spirit, just Silence. The sign I hung up? Still there. And every neighbor who saw it? They just smiled and whispered, "Let that floaty deflate." Because when you treat someone's private pool like a public playground, eventually, you get drained. Part 7. The Karen-free Splash Bash. A week passed. 7 days of blissful silence. No flyers, no HOA drama, no clipboard sightings near my mailbox. Just birds, sunshine, and the soft ripple of pool water I filled back up. On my terms. And with peace restored, I decided it was time. Time for my own party. Not a fake HOA bash. Not some entitlement-fueled ego parade. Nope. This was the Karen-free Splash Bash. I printed actual invitations on real cardstock, with one perfect line handwritten at the top. This event is held on private property. HOA Karen not invited. The neighbors knew exactly what that meant, and when Saturday rolled around, they came. Chairs, floats, coolers, playlists, laughter. Even old Mr. Donnelly, who hadn't left his porch in 3 months, showed up with a bowl of chips and a folding stool. Someone brought a homemade float shaped like a shark. They named it Cheryl. I couldn't breathe. We grilled burgers, blasted yacht rock. Yes, the same playlist Cheryl used. Only now, it was ironic and amazing. At one point, the kids reenacted the Great Drain scene, pretending their floaties were slowly sinking. Parents laughed, filmed it, and one of them even joked, "We should make this an annual tradition." The vibe? Laid back, joyful, completely free of HOA nonsense. And just when I thought the night had peaked, a familiar SUV crept by. Silver, slow, silent. Cheryl. She didn't stop, didn't roll down the window, just stared through the glass, watching everything. The music, the laughter, the string lights twinkling in my backyard. The same backyard she once tried to claim for herself. But this time, she didn't dare get out. She was no longer the host. She was the punchline. And everyone knew it. I raised my soda can, turned away from the road, and said, just loud enough for the whole yard to hear, "Isn't it funny how peaceful things get when certain people stop thinking your pool is their kingdom?" A cheer went up. Someone shouted, "To the coin! Pool! King!" And then another voice chimed in, "Long live the Splash Bash!" And right then, I realized something. This wasn't just a party. It was a neighborhood reset. A reminder that respect matters, that boundaries exist, that kindness doesn't come with a clipboard. As the stars came out and the grill sizzled, we laughed, we danced, we swam. And Cheryl? She drove away, still pretending she had power. But the only thing she ruled now was her own silence. Part 8. The aftermath of a Karen-sized collapse. The next morning, the air felt cleaner. No, not just from the weather, but from the absence of something. No flyers, no signs zip-tied to fences, no HOA urgent community updates slipped under my door. Cheryl had gone quiet. Too quiet. And the neighborhood? It noticed. I stepped outside with a coffee in hand. The pool shimmered under the morning sun. Clean. Undisturbed. As if the chaos had never happened. But the aftermath? Oh, it was rippling. My inbox had messages from neighbors I barely knew. One simply said, "You did what we all wish we had the courage to do." Another sent a meme of Cheryl's floaty, half-deflated, out-captioned, "This didn't age well." Someone else dropped off a cake at my door, frosted with the words, "No Karens allowed." Even Brian, the real HOA president, forwarded me a screenshot from the local community Facebook group. Cheryl had tried to spin the narrative. She called the event a tragic misunderstanding exaggerated by a hostile homeowner. But the comments? They weren't buying it. People posted their own Cheryl horror stories. Times she'd find them for garden gnomes, told them their mailbox clashed with the HOA mood, yelled at a kid for riding his bike too joyfully. And in the middle of it all, a video clip, her party unraveling in real time, as the water drained behind her speech, dramatic music, slow-motion zooms, even subtitles. It was titled, "Karen Gets Drained, HOA Delusion Meets Reality." Over 10,000 views in 2 days. I couldn't make this up if I tried. By the weekend, Cheryl had vanished from public view. Her porch, empty. No sun hat, no clipboard, not even a potted plant left outside. Rumor had it, she'd resigned from the HOA entirely. And me? I finally had my peace. Not just the quiet kind, but the kind you earn. With a wrench, a camera, a cup of lemonade, and a whole lot of patience. I walked along the edge of my pool that evening barefoot. The water calm and still. It wasn't just a backyard anymore. It was proof. Proof that sometimes the best response to entitlement isn't to shout. It's to stand tall, twist the valve, and let the water speak for itself. And Cheryl, she learned the hard way. When you treat someone's home like a public amenity, you don't just lose the party, you lose the neighborhood. Epilogue. The Legend of the Pool Avenger. Weeks passed, and the neighborhood? It was never the same again. Not in a bad way, in the best possible way. There were no more surprise community events. No more strangers cannonballing into private pools. No more women in sun hats claiming your patio in the name of unity. No more Cheryl. Her clipboard, retired. Her HOA ambitions, evaporated like spilled sangria in the summer sun. Her power, drained, right along with the pool. But me? I was still here. Still sipping lemonade on my favorite floaty. Still listening to kids laugh from a distance, from their own yards. Still hearing the occasional clink of a soda can from neighbors stopping by to say, "You really showed her." Some people fight back with lawyers, others with protests. But me? I used a wrench, and a little bit of water pressure. And the message? It echoed louder than any HOA memo ever could. Respect boundaries, or watch your plans go down the drain. Eventually, someone made a custom sign and nailed it to the HOA bulletin board. In bold black letters it read, "Don't be a Cheryl." And below that, a photo of my empty pool, mid-drain. People started calling me the Pool Avenger. Greg joked I should write a book. Brian said I'd be the only HOA exemption written into neighborhood lore. And someone even asked if they could throw a party, a real one, to celebrate the drain heard round the block. So we did. We called it Splash of Justice. And at the top of every invitation, in big, bold, glorious letters, "No Karens allowed." And that was how I reclaimed my pool, my peace, and apparently, my legacy. Because when someone tells you to leave your own backyard, sometimes the best thing to do is stay right where you are and drain their ego, 1 inch of water at a time. Long live the pool. Long live the boundary. And may every Cheryl out there think twice before bringing a clipboard to the wrong backyard.